No bonus. What do we do? Well, apparently, Manager Mike holds a grudge against me for confronting him and plans to use the bonus as leverage to make me apologize. Typical arrogant Manager Mike thinking. But it worked out well for me. Thank you so much. What? Well, if you leave, it'll be a relief for me too. My cheerful gratitude seems to have surprised Manager Mike. But I've never felt more grateful to Manager Mike than at this moment. Is that so? That's great then. I'll leave my clients to you, Manager Mike. The handover. I don't need that. You probably didn't do much anyway. Just get out quickly. Got it. It would be helpful if you could submit this resignation letter for me. Goodbye. I gave a courteous farewell to Manager Mike and happily resigned. He couldn't have imagined what would happen next. I am David Moore, 45 years old. I live at home with my wife and 2 children while working at Anderson Electric, a power company. I'm in the sales department, but now the manager is in complete chaos. The reason is that the sales department is overwhelmed with constantly ringing phones. Sadly, all the calls are complaints. We're very sorry. We are currently checking the situation. We will refund the overcharged fees at a later date. The reason for the flood of complaint calls to Anderson Electric is that the billing amounts on last month's statements were completely swapped with those of other people or companies. Moreover, the fees had already been withdrawn, causing great confusion. Thus, the phones kept ringing for responses. How did this happen? Because of the financial issues, we frequently receive anger and sarcastic remarks from clients. An exhausted employee, overwhelmed by such days, mumbled quietly after finishing a call. The root cause of these numerous complaints was Manager Mike, who was newly appointed to the sales department this year. The sales department has too much work. It's already busy, and now we have to handle so many manual tasks. Nowadays, such work should be entrusted to systems or AI. Manager Mike aimed to simplify sales administration and forcefully introduced a management system sold by a small company called K Systems. Other executives were reluctant, unsure if it was reliable, but Manager Mike pushed through, citing the fact that the sales department was busy and had overtime. Sure enough, the K Systems system had numerous glitches. With the chaos of the new fiscal year added to the mix, the invoice contents became a mess, leading to great confusion. It would have been better if Manager Mike reported the issue to the president after the system was implemented. But he hid the system's glitches until the very end. As a result, the situation came to light through this storm of complaints, the worst-case scenario. Manager Mike seems to be in contact with K Systems, but it's our company that has to handle the complaints. Even if they pay for damages and penalties, it doesn't reduce our burden. Manager, please help with the calls. I'm busy communicating with K Systems. While we were desperately handling the complaints, Manager Mike kept making excuses to avoid phone duty himself. The reason such a pathetic manager was appointed was that he, for some reason, had good sales performance. I don't know what tricks he used, but since he delivered results in numbers, we couldn't complain. However, since Manager Mike was constantly avoiding unpleasant tasks, I finally lost my patience and confronted him. Manager, enough is enough. Don't you see that the employees are desperately handling the calls? I'm busy. I have lots of work that you ordinary employees can't even imagine. That's a poor excuse. This is all because you forcefully implemented a dubious system, right? What the? Manager Mike and I glared at each other, the tension thick in the air. That's when President Anderson of Anderson Electric arrived. Stop fighting. President Anderson, who has managed this company for about 20 years, has a certain level of authority. We instantly fell silent and held our breath. You understand this is not the time for arguments, right? Yes. If you have any complaints, come to my office later. I'll listen. With President Anderson saying that, we had no choice but to stay quiet. I had plenty of complaints, but we backed down. The dispute seemed resolved, but I underestimated Manager Mike's persistence. As the storm of complaints continued, by the end of June, a month after the incident, we were still dealing with complaints and refunds. With overtime continuing, my gaunt face upon returning home worried my wife and sons. Amid these exhausting days, the only thing I looked forward to was the bonus that was supposed to be paid along with this month's salary. Then, the day before the bonus, after returning from apologizing to clients, I found a resignation letter on my desk. Of course, I had no memory of writing a resignation letter. I was shocked, wondering what was going on. It means exactly what it says. Noticing my return, Manager Mike approached. Judging by his attitude, it seemed that he had prepared the resignation letter. Implicitly, he was telling me to quit before receiving the bonus. I never thought he would retaliate in this way over our previous argument. Seeing me standing there in shock, Manager Mike spoke. "No bonus. What do we do?" "Well, if you kneel and apologize for insulting me back then, I might consider it." He held a grudge against me for confronting him and planned to use the bonus as leverage to make me apologize. It's just the kind of thing arrogant Manager Mike would think of. But for me, it was rather convenient. I had already been thinking about resigning for a certain reason. However, in a busy workplace like ours, offering to resign would cause a lot of friction. So, if my boss was pushing me to quit, it was the perfect excuse. "Thank you very much." "What? Well, if you're leaving, that'll be a relief for me too." My cheerful gratitude seemed to surprise Manager Mike. But I've never felt more grateful to Manager Mike than at this moment. "Is that so? That's great then. I'll leave my clients to you, Manager Mike. The handover." "I don't need that. You probably didn't do much anyway. Just get out quickly." "Understood. It would be helpful if you could submit this resignation letter for me. Goodbye." I gave a courteous farewell to Manager Mike and happily resigned. After resigning from Anderson Electric and returning home, I explained the situation to my wife. When she heard that I had resigned, my wife seemed rather relieved. "I see, you've been having a tough time lately." For the past few months, I had been complaining about handling complaints and Manager Mike's unreliability every time I came home. She was glad that I was finally freed from those busy days. "Yeah, but don't worry, I have a job lined up. I was planning to resign at some point anyway." "Is that so? I understand. If you have any worries, feel free to talk to me about anything." "Thank you." Although it meant a temporary loss of income, she accepted the situation once I explained it. I didn't want my son to know that I had resigned. Therefore, I planned to move quickly to find a new job and explain why I was at home if he questioned it. After explaining to my wife, I contacted the job lead and got their approval. Then, the day after my resignation, I spent the morning relaxing in bed. I wanted to take it easy for at least a day after finally being freed from handling complaints. Suddenly, my phone started ringing. When I saw the name on the display, it was Manager Mike. I thought there was nothing left to discuss with him, so I ignored the call. However, the phone kept ringing over and over again. If it were a call from President Anderson, I couldn't just ignore it. With that in mind, I didn't turn off my phone, but continued to ignore the calls initially. But the phone wouldn't stop ringing. Realizing I couldn't leave it like this, I decided to answer. "Hello." "Hey, what the hell is going on, David?" Manager Mike, speaking rapidly on the other end, sounded quite desperate. "What do you mean? What's going on with your clients?" Apparently, as I requested, Manager Mike took over my clients. But it seems something displeasing had happened. "What do you mean by what's going on?" "When I told them you were no longer their contact, they all said they'd stop doing business with us." "Maybe it's because your handling of the situation wasn't good, manager." "What did you say? Are you kidding me?" "I am one of the veterans in the department. As a result, I was actually in charge of several major corporate accounts. This included handling complaints and refund processes." "Did you tell them to stop doing business with us?" Why would I say something like that? What benefit would I have from stopping the deals? Then why did they suddenly decide to stop the business? I hadn't talked to them since I resigned, so I didn't know. After thinking for a moment, I conveyed the reason that came to mind. Maybe it's your attitude, Manager Mike? What? It sounds impressive to have major corporate clients. I'm sure many employees in the sales department would love to handle those accounts. However, through my time working here, I realized that dealing with major companies is tough. Electric companies are taken for granted, and nowadays there are many competitors. As a result, there's little appreciation for our company, and almost no clients see us as equals. In negotiations, we typically have to humble ourselves, persistently bargaining with clients who relentlessly pursue lower prices. Only after building trust can we finally secure contracts. Without the patience to do this, we can't maintain deals with big companies. They would just say they're looking for a cheaper alternative. Given that they're already irritated, it's only natural they'd switch to a competitor if we mishandle things. What? Even before I resigned, the clients were frustrated with the extra work caused by the recent trouble. I would constantly apologize, soothe them, and carefully explain the situation. I begged them to continue doing business with us, lowering my head humbly. The combination of my humble attitude and the trust built over years of interaction allowed us to keep the deals despite the turmoil. Then, Manager Mike came in, suddenly announcing the change in contact person and acting arrogantly. It's no surprise they said they'd look for a cheaper, more reliable company after that. Anyway, you need to come back. You have to convince the clients to keep doing business with us. That's impossible. What are you talking about? You just quit yesterday. You can come back right away. What does he think a resignation letter is? Once it's submitted and accepted, resignation is final. And there's another reason why I can't return to Anderson Electric. I decided to confront Manager Mike, who ignores company rules and makes unreasonable demands, with reality. I've already secured a job at another company. You got a job, but you quit just yesterday. Actually, I've been getting offers from another company for a while. When I contacted them, they welcomed me warmly. By the way, it's a much larger company than Anderson Electric. What? Manager Mike exclaimed in shock. Hearing his voice made me feel satisfied. They're hiring me at double my current salary. The bonus you took from me will be paid as a signing bonus. No way such a company exists. You're lying to mock me. Cut it out. Why would I lie about something so trivial? Unlike you, I am not irresponsible. You. I'm sure Manager Mike was shaking with anger on the other end of the line. He never imagined that his plan to force me to resign would result in losing clients and me landing a better job. Is that all you wanted to say? If so, goodbye. Hey, stop joking. Just come back without any more nonsense. Manager Mike continued to shout bitterly, but I saw no need to listen and hung up the phone. Then, I blocked his number. About a week later, I started my new job at the company I had contacted earlier. Through my sales work, I had built connections with many companies. Occasionally, I would receive job offers. I'm glad you accepted our offer. I had almost given up. But I never thought the day would come when I could work with you, David. The person greeting me was President Davis of Davis Trading. This company is a large corporation with various businesses in steel, energy, and automobile manufacturing. Working with energy means I can use some of my knowledge from my previous job. I'm honored you reached out to me. Your enthusiastic and meticulous approach to sales is quite rare. It might be challenging to relearn some things, but we expect great things from you here. Yes, thank you. Ever since my time at Anderson Electric, President Davis had been scouting me. Apparently, during my sales visits to Davis Trading, my detailed consultations and dedication left a good impression. Even veteran employees rarely handle sales as meticulously as I did. President Davis said my serious work attitude, built through years of experience, was impressive. Getting out of the chaos at Anderson Electric and receiving a higher salary was more than I could have wished for. I must meet the expectations President Davis has for me, no matter what. Still, it was unfortunate. I'm glad you're joining us, but to be forced to resign right before your bonus. Yes, that's why I'm so grateful to you, President Davis. So, what exactly happened at Anderson Electric? It's not good to discuss internal company chaos with outsiders, but I'm sure President Davis will keep it confidential. So, I decided to briefly explain the situation at Anderson Electric. Well, our manager made a mess at the beginning of the fiscal year. Manager Mike introduced a flawed management system, causing chaos at Anderson Electric. He then tried to evade responsibility, so I confronted him. This led to a hostile relationship between us, and I was forced to resign. I summarized the events succinctly. However, it worked out well for me since I had been considering moving to Davis Trading anyway. At Anderson Electric, I spent every day appeasing clients as a sales rep, handling a flood of complaints from the start of the new fiscal year. Every day was overtime, leaving me exhausted. I felt grateful to President Anderson, but it was natural for me to want to leave when a company offered me better terms. I was actually looking for the right moment to resign, but considering my clients, colleagues, and family, it wasn't easy. Then Manager Mike pushed me out, which turned out to be convenient. I could have resigned any time by submitting my resignation letter, but I hesitated because of my clients and colleagues. Anyway, I'm glad you got away from the heavy workload and unreasonable boss. Thank you. By the way, we've terminated our contract with Anderson Electric. Is that so? When I resigned, Davis Trading was still doing business with Anderson Electric. But it seems something happened after I left. I had a conversation, but that Manager Mike is unpleasant. These days, there are plenty of electric companies. If he continues to work there, there's no need to keep the contract. It appears that after taking over my clients, Manager Mike behaved poorly on the phone and angered Davis Trading. What did Manager Mike say? He assured us that the root cause employee had been let go, so we could rest easy. To cause such a major incident and then just fire a rank-and-file employee is beyond irresponsible. I told them we couldn't continue business and terminated the contract at the end of the month. We're now moving forward with another company. Well, did he really think that claiming my resignation would satisfy the clients? He probably explained the same thing to other clients, so it's no wonder they are severing ties one after another. Well, that's all in the past now. The fact that you joined our company is the best outcome. We look forward to your contributions here. Thank you. With President Davis around, I won't have to worry about unreasonable bosses anymore. I was determined to do my best at this company to meet the generous terms and expectations given to me. I hoped to return to a peaceful routine, but that was not to be. A week after starting at Davis Trading, I was summoned by Anderson Electric. Since I had already resigned, I had no obligation to go. However, it seemed that Manager Mike was spreading lies and shifting the blame onto me. I couldn't leave this unfounded accusation unaddressed, as it might cause trouble later. After notifying Davis Trading of my absence, I went to the president's office at Anderson Electric. There, I found President Anderson and Manager Mike, both with stern expressions. I'm sorry to call you in despite your resignation. No problem, but what's going on? In response to my question, Manager Mike started to make his claims. This guy is the root of all the problems. David introduced a useless system that threw the department into chaos and then quit without notice. Moreover, we lost major clients he handled, and sales have plummeted. We can't let such an irresponsible person, who just wrecks the company and leaves, get away with it. What? It seemed the story had been greatly distorted. What are you talking about? First of all, it was Manager Mike who forcefully implemented the system despite opposition, right? Shut up. You were the one who kept telling me to reduce the administrative work. I absolutely never said that. What Manager Mike is claiming is his own opinion, not mine. I cannot accept being blamed for the implementation of the system. Does he intend to place all the responsibility for this fiasco on me? Moreover, I didn't resign voluntarily. Manager Mike forced me to quit right before the bonus by presenting me with a resignation letter, didn't he? There's no way I'd let an employee go during such a busy time. Besides, you must have told our clients to cut ties with us out of spite. What benefit would I have in going around telling clients to cut ties after I resigned? Especially when we've already caused them enough trouble with this mess. I could never be that rude. Manager Mike laughed derisively. I know you've already got a job at another company, right? You took all the clients with you since it's a competitor, didn't you? Unfortunately for you, my new job is not in the electric industry. Some of my knowledge might be useful, but I can't continue any contracts on my own. Thinking he had found a good excuse, Manager Mike clicked his tongue. Anyway, because he quit without notice, we've had to apologize to the clients repeatedly, and we're losing contracts left and right. Say something, President. I was merely caught up in this mess. The resignation letter was forced on me by Manager Mike, and I haven't said anything to our clients. President Anderson, you know it was Manager Mike who forcefully implemented the system and then tried to cover up the situation, making it worse. Both of you are telling different stories. President Anderson seemed unsure of how to judge our conflicting accounts. How could I convince him that I was innocent and a victim? As I was thinking, I heard the sound of heavy footsteps approaching. I didn't recall any employees at Anderson Electric with such heavy footsteps. Who could it be? Sorry, but you can't come in without an appointment. I need to talk, so excuse me. President Davis. Ignoring the protesting employee, President Davis entered the office. He must have heard that I was absent because I had to come to Anderson Electric. Still as bold as ever, President Davis. I heard our promising new star was being unfairly blamed. I didn't intend to involve him, but I felt grateful for his support, both for hiring me and for coming here. It also seemed that President Davis and President Anderson were on familiar terms. Seeing this, I asked, do you know each other? We've been pushing each other to improve since we started our companies. That's right. Since the beginning, I've managed my company steadily, while he has boldly taken on various ventures. That's how Davis Trading grew. I admire his business acumen and sense for opportunities. Both President Davis and President Anderson are around 60 years old. With their similar ages and shared ambition as entrepreneurs, they probably bonded and competed to grow their companies since their founding. I've heard from David. He said that Manager Mike forced him to resign before he could receive his bonus. That's just something David is saying. I never forced him to resign. Don't blame me without knowing the situation. President Davis responded to Manager Mike, who was hastily trying to cover his tracks. I've done business with David many times and know his integrity. That's why I wanted him to join our company. I can't believe someone like him would resign voluntarily, leaving his clients and colleagues in the lurch during a busy time. That's just your impression. Manager Mike desperately tried to evade responsibility. President Davis glared at him and pressed further. Moreover, didn't we have a phone conversation? What are you talking about? You said the root cause employee had been let go now, whose claim was it that David resigned voluntarily. Hearing President Davis's remarks, Manager Mike began to sweat. It seems you change your story depending on who you're talking to, Manager Mike. Well, caught in the inconsistency of his statements, Manager Mike could only falter. I had a brief conversation with Mike over the phone. But do you always have that kind of attitude with clients? Maybe you should take a refresher course on phone etiquette. Our new graduates handle calls much better. That's not true. There's not a shred of sincerity in you. Your words reveal that you only care about your company's profit and see us as nothing more than a cash cow. Given your insincere attitude, it's no wonder clients are severing ties after you took over David's accounts. Manager Mike was visibly shaken, clearly not expecting his phone manner to be criticized by a client. Until now, he had managed to hide his misdeeds. But now, the truth was unraveling from all directions. David is an excellent employee. He's already making significant contributions to our company. In the past, he carefully crafted plans for our contracts. I can't imagine him lying in a way that would harm the company. I also highly regard his work. We regretted losing him when he resigned. Suddenly, President Davis made a suggestion. Speaking of the electricity contracts, what is it? If you demote or fire Manager Mike, we will consider resuming our business with you. What? He hadn't expected his position to be used as a bargaining chip. Manager Mike exclaimed in surprise. President Davis. You were rude to me over the phone. I don't want to do business with you. As a former client, I suggest you take this step. Given the number of contracts you're losing, it seems other clients feel the same way. That may be true, but judging by your inconsistent statements, it's almost certain that you triggered this mess. It's reasonable to hold you accountable, and if they do, our company would feel secure doing business again. It's not a bad deal. Realizing his position was in jeopardy, Manager Mike began to protest. President Anderson, you can't fire me. I've contributed so much to this company. A small mistake. Which small mistake are you referring to? The trouble caused by the system implementation. Manager Mike finally confessed that the current issue was his doing. I've been in contact with K Systems, who developed the system. We're currently negotiating the damages. That's not the point. For over a month, employees have been working overtime daily to handle complaints. And you call this a small mistake that doesn't need punishment. But I've worked so hard for this company. Isn't it too harsh to make me quit over this? Manager Mike clung to his current position with childish excuses, clearly desperate to avoid demotion or being fired. While dismissing him outright would be the quickest solution, current laws make that difficult. Firing him without his agreement could lead to further trouble. As I was pondering this, several employees entered the president's office. Sorry for eavesdropping, but we can't take it anymore. And who are you? The employees who entered were from the sales department. They seemed to have been listening to our argument. Seeing me, the forced to resign employee, and Manager Mike, the cause of the issue, discussing things with President Anderson, they couldn't focus on their work without knowing the outcome. The employees spoke up. Because Manager Mike forcefully implemented that faulty system, we're suffering. He should have reported to President Anderson immediately, but he kept hiding it until things got out of hand. He's been taking credit for our work for ages. Do you know how frustrated we are that someone like him became our manager? With this new information, President Anderson's gaze grew even sharper. Taking credit for others? This is the first I'm hearing of it, Manager Mike. No, I didn't do anything like that. The employees are just making it up. Don't lie. Everyone knows that most of your high sales figures come from taking credit for the work of your team. The employees countered vehemently. Seizing the moment, I added my own experience. I've had my work stolen as well. You took the contract right out of my hands with a smile on your face. You too, David. You're all just ganging up on me. Manager Mike had impressive sales numbers, but it was because he was stealing credit from his team. With his misdeeds exposed, it was clear that he couldn't stay in his position. Mike, it seems you've been hiding a lot from me. No, that's not true. Given all that's come to light, I won't be lenient. You'd better start explaining everything. Damn it. President Anderson glared sharply at Manager Mike, pressing him further. Realizing he could no longer escape, Manager Mike dropped his knees and pounded the floor. Seeing this, the employees rejoiced, finally feeling liberated from his tyranny. President Davis and I exchanged relieved glances. President Anderson then took Manager Mike to a conference room for a one-on-one discussion. The employees returned to their department and reported to everyone that Manager Mike was finally being disciplined. The team celebrated their release from his irresponsibility. President Davis returned to Davis Trading, and since I had already reported my absence, I went home to relax. I felt immense relief knowing I was finally free from the troubles caused by Manager Mike. In conclusion, Manager Mike, or rather Mike, was terminated. He confessed to all his misdeeds, including taking credit for others' work, his arrogant attitude towards both the team and clients, and the implementation of the faulty system. Additionally, it was discovered that he had received kickbacks related to the system's outsourcing fees. He and K Systems, the development company, were splitting the money. The employees of Anderson Electric finally understood why they had been dealing with such an obscure, small company. Mike was terminated and charged with embezzlement. It seems he used the embezzled money to pay off debts he already had. Since he couldn't return the stolen funds, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Being single, there was no one to pity his sentence. Even after he is released, he will likely lead a miserable life. At K Systems, they acknowledged their involvement in the kickback scheme and returned the embezzled funds. As a result, they avoided criminal charges, but it appears they have been involved in other illegal activities. With police investigations underway, they will likely face charges for other crimes. By mid-July, the storm of complaints finally began to subside. I discussed the situation at Anderson Electric with my wife. Is Anderson Electric going to be okay? Yes, about 80% of the clients stayed. The sales department employees maintained their courteous attitude and worked hard. Considering the scale of the incident, that's more than enough. I see, we lost some things, but it's good that it ended on a positive note. It would have left a bad taste if Anderson Electric had been seriously affected. In this case, the employees' careful responses helped prevent the worst-case scenario of losing all the contracts. Their attitude likely stemmed from working under President Anderson's steady management. I told my sons that I changed jobs, but they didn't seem too worried, which was a relief. Later, I went out for drinks with President Anderson and President Davis to celebrate the resolution of the situation. David, don't you want to come back to Anderson Electric? He's going to be working at our company from now on. I was asking David. President Anderson looked exasperated. It seemed President Davis had taken quite a liking to me. His willingness to offer me such favorable terms was likely due to my past dedication and integrity in sales. Going back and forth wouldn't be very professional. I plan to do my best at Davis Trading. I see. President Anderson, I thought you put up more of a fight. My failure to see through Manager Mike's credit stealing caused this situation. It's my fault, so I'll accept this as my punishment. President Anderson looked at me. But when our companies do business, you'll be handling our account, right? Yes, that's what President Davis told me. I see then. I'll be counting on you from now on. Likewise, thank you. I didn't return to Anderson Electric. But the business relationship between Anderson Electric and Davis Trading was successfully resumed. I became the bridge between the two companies. While my employer changed, my role in sales remained largely the same. I intend to continue valuing integrity and carrying out my sales duties with dedication.